What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fine, Eric Sheets-Haber, Eric Sheets-Haber, and Jake Rody. Sorry, I'm used to doing just me and Sheets. We're going to be talking about this 10-game NFL slate, and it's a weird one. There's not like a lot of like obvious value, which is kind of putting some weird things out there that are really chalky. That I even have a lot of that chalk right now, and I'd like to sort of edit some of that stuff. But Sheets, why don't we start with you for your overall takes in the slate, and then we'll go to Rody, and then we'll talk about position by position.
Yeah, so when we go through today, I mean, I really want to try to identify just some kind of pivots along the way because, I ran some sims now, but it's probably not going to be what I have by 12:30. What I had originally was more just piled on to this freaking San Francisco game, but fortunately, that's not the case anymore. I really didn't want that for some reason. I didn't want such exposure to one game. And then what I'm also going to do, like after we get done with this, is use the takes you guys kind of help me with and just pare some of this stuff down, like you were saying, and I'll hopefully give you guys some opinions that, can help you guys and everybody else maybe pare back exposure or increase exposure. It's only a 10-game slate, so you have to be a little bit more unique than normal, but still it's a 10-game slate. It's not like it's, a showdown slate or anything like that.
Right. How about you, Rody? Any overall takes before we get into positions?
Yeah, I actually kind of have that same take where I'm kind of trying to figure out where to bring my guys back down to. I feel like I need to be more spread out today, but I really don't want to be. I want to lock into a couple of guys, and find some lower on plays. So we'll get at it here this week and ready to get after it.
Definitely, yeah. And I think that one other take I had just real quick before we get into the positions is it's interesting, like looking at the afternoon games, because really the Jets in Arizona stands out, but she sort of brought it up earlier in the week when we did our first look show for the NFL. And if you're struggling, pivoting over, if you have a lot of that Jets Arizona like as a game stack, you can pivot over to the Philadelphia and Dallas at much lower ownership. And I think it's an interesting just option. There's not a lot of afternoon games, only 3, but that's just an interesting way to go. So I'm considering it. But yeah, I'm having trouble with this week in general. So let's start off with quarterback. I'm going to go to Rody, then Sheets, and then me. What do you got at quarterback, Rody? Who are you using the most? What stacks do you? I mean, it's sort of going to incorporate sort of what stacks you like. What do you?
Yeah, that's fine. The Aaron Rodgers, like you just mentioned, that game looks really good. He's really cheap to stack that passing game up. I really like that. But on the other side of that game, you have Kyler Murray. I think a little bit less owned. I kind of like stacking that side of the game, and in bringing some Jets pieces back. So I'm on the Murray side more. Purdy's the chalkiest one I see really right now, but I have had a hard time figuring out the weapons to stack him with. So I've kind of rather go elsewhere. I like Kirk Cousins a lot at 6-7, lower ownership this week. Herbert, we never talk about the Chargers this year, maybe at 5-2. They've been passing a little bit more. I have a little bit of MME, but I don't think he's going to make a big lineup. Joe Flacco in that dome game against Buffalo, 5,500. I kind of like him a little bit. And then, I got a debate on the Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts. I like one of those two bigger quarterback or spend-up quarterbacks. I tend to lean with Jalen Hurts. Maybe he's an afternoon game too. Maybe I stack that up. He's got all of his offensive weapons back this week, so maybe they do get in sync more this week again. So kind of like the Hurts side.
Yeah, and also remember Philadelphia hates Dallas, and likewise the other way around. And if they could put the hammer down, they're going to. That's what I think. So I like that call. What do you got, Sheets, as quarterback? What are you getting the most of?
Right now, mostly Aaron Rodgers as the top guy, and then Darnold. The Darnold issue is that I don't know if Jacksonville's going to be able to keep up too much. Yeah. I'm not going to play. I don't think the Mac Jones. Actually, I have a little of him in the 150, whatever. But I think that Mac Jones, against Brian Flores is kind of a tough spot. So I don't know how much Minnesota is going to be pressed, and you're going to have Aaron Jones is going to be a really good play too. So getting a Sam Darnold, listen, you could play him and almost make it kind of a cool leverage play and play Darnold with maybe not even Jefferson, maybe play him with like Addison or something like that. That's something you could do, or even the tight end. But Brock Purdy, although he's got just a lot of weapons, I mean, he's just live for 4 touchdowns today. So I think that you could, if you get to him organically, I think you could play him without any receivers, and just hope he just throws 4 to 4 different people, 1 to McCaffrey, right? One to Samuel, 1 to Kittle, 1 to Jennings or whoever. I just think it's a really, really good spot for them. And I think Tampa's got a better shot of keeping that one competitive.
Yeah.
The Herbert thing,
Go ahead.
It's just not my type of play.
Yeah.
I'm getting to him, and then the other guys, I only have like 7 quarterbacks I'm playing really right now. Josh Allen, always going to get some of that. You mentioned Flacco, and then the 2 guys I want to talk about from the late games. Is this even the late game? No, this is the early game. You have Mahomes with some pretty inexpensive receivers. You know, you have like their main guys are cheaper than they usually are, and with the exception of Worthy. And I know Denver's, tough-ish. I know Surtain is tough-ish, but I don't know. This could be a spot for that. And then I'll go back to my freaking tilt play of Cooper Rush from Dallas. I am. I'm gonna do this. I think I'm gonna stack that game up in the 4 o'clock window. And if it's not in the classic slate, it'll certainly be in the 4 p.m.
But if you got 330s like from your early guys and you have nothing else going, you can easily just switch that over if you'd like to the Jets in Arizona, which is a little more chalky if you hit the nuts on the beginning part. So you got a lot of options if you do that. I like trying to get to the afternoon games just for that reason. I have Rodgers as my highest owned quarterback. I know it's chalky. I have Purdy as my second highest owned. I love the Josh Allen idea, and Jalen Hurts is looking like he's going to get like no ownership. So Allen and Hurts are my next 2. I currently have some Herbert, but I don't feel good about it. It's not my kind of thing right now. And I'm just going to say, like, with what they're doing over there, it's not like this is not Justin Herbert from the last few years, It's not the same situation. He's hit 20 fantasy points one time this season. I don't know. It's not like I don't think it's bad. I think he's probably a good value play no matter what. I think in cash, I can understand why you'd play him, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like a tournament winning upside play to me. In a game that is, what has got a 30 some odd total. It's just 39 total. So I have, and then as Rody mentioned, 5% of Kyler Murray I've got right now. But really wanted to highlight that I think that if you're going to play these chalky receivers from Indianapolis, you don't have to play them with Joe Flacco. You can play Josh Allen on the other side by himself and play the Adonai Mitchell and Josh Downs as run backs. Because Flacco might do that and might put up 18 fantasy points, and those guys might go off, and then you end up with a 30 from Josh Allen because he runs one or two in, So I think that's an interesting way of building, just from my thoughts. All right, Sheet, start us off at running back.
So the obvious types of plays, are going to be Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara. Those are the 2 top plays, I think. And that's the ones I'm getting the most of now. And then there's DeAndre Swift. They're a big favorite at home and all that stuff. And then Breece Hall from that Jets game we talked about, and James Conner on the other side of that as well. But I want to highlight 2 kind of interesting pivots to talk about. Not even pivot. One is, and I know you're probably going to be on board with this. I mean, what does the guy got to do to be 30% owned? And that's Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
He's just on another level right now, and he's against a team that is live to give up the season. You know what I mean? Like, and giving up 200 yards at home to Barkley would be quite the way to end the season, I think. So I think he's very live at the usual low ownership, I guess. And then this is another one I'm going to steal from you, just maybe not today, but over the years, is if we're really going to do this and play 65% or whatever, 50% Josh Downs or 30% Adonai Mitchell, I'm going to go ahead and play Jonathan Taylor.
I like that.
From the Colts. I think that's a really, really sharp play, and I'm kind of down with that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The Jonathan Taylor. I think he's going to have some ownership too. These Colts are getting a ton of ownership today, but I really do like the Jonathan Taylor, and there's just so many good running back options. I think he definitely belongs with all of them, and I love the Barkley take. How about you, Rody?
Yeah, those are all really good takes. I think I can add to it a little bit. I think one of the guys I like a little bit more, I think, is Najee Harris, 6,200. I don't know. I'm just feeling like I like that game a little bit more. I mentioned like a Jaden Stack, but like I like Terry McLaurin run back, like a little mini correlation type thing. I think that's a good combo. Yeah, the Barkley play I really like. Swift I really like a lot. That Sheets mentioned. You got Bijan too in that another dome game. Kind of want a little bit of that. On the other side of Kamara, in that game, and then Taylor. Yeah, great play for Taylor. I know if the passing attack for Rodgers is going to be chalky, you got Breece Hall. He's looking a little chalky. I think his ownership came down a little bit compared to these other guys, but it's really spread out on these top 8 guys today in the running back position. I think it's going to be really crazy. But yeah, and then rest of them I don't like. I'm really staying in the top 8 that we did, those guys we just mentioned. So
yeah, it's crazy for me at running back because I've got 7 guys at over 20% that I'm owned.
Yeah,
and I think that means a lot of running backs in the flex. DeAndre Swift, I think it's a running back or tight end in the flex kind of a day, at least for me. That's what I'm getting to a lot of. Maybe it's going to be for everyone. Maybe you could argue it's good to go contrarian and have wide receivers in the flex, but I that's what I'm doing today mostly. Swift, Kamara. I think Kamara is probably the one I like the most, but I also will get to it later. But I like Taysom Hill quite a bit, and I'm sure Sheets is going to agree with me. Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley. This is an order, but these are all similar ownerships. James Conner, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor. And then I am going to play the McCaffrey. They said he's a full go. Since that happened, since they announced he was a full go, 30 minutes ago, I see his ownership has doubled. Look, I don't like playing running backs who like to run up the middle against Tampa Bay, but he doesn't always run up the middle. And he's basically also like a wide receiver out there. So, and then getting to a little bit of Eckler, I'm a little below the field on him, but a little bit. And instead of, if you're going to play this Indianapolis chalk, why wouldn't we play the only problem? I guess the problem I have with the James Cook run back is Ray Davis has looked so good, but it wouldn't surprise me if James Cook had a big day today. So he was the sort of the get weird one for me. I know Rody mentioned Najee Harris, but I sort of like the James Cook idea a little bit.
I've got one for you. I was going to save this maybe even for the hot take later. Just remember this, because we haven't gotten to this position yet, right? But the highest owned player, I guess you could call it, in most optimals are Chicago Bears defense.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to play Ramondre Stevenson. I think that's really, really a good play. He can get it going. And if they can keep this game close, they're going to keep giving him the ball. And I like that a lot. The Bears are going to be legit 20-25% owned. And I think that's listen, as you mentioned, there's a lot of good running back plays, and who's to say the Ramondre Stevenson is not one of them? So I think that's a pretty good play.
Yeah, let me add to that, Sheets. I think a couple good defensive players are out for the Bears too, for what it's worth.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I heard the same thing.
I just heard it across the industry, but I'm not sure exactly on that.
Yeah, and I actually think that's a good idea that Stevenson. I thought about it. There's just so many guys I like so much. It's kind of it was hard for me to get there at first. All right. Rody, I'll let you start talking first about the wide receivers, and of course we have the chalkiest wide receivers as the two from Indy, which is going to make Flacco popular and that stack popular and all that stuff. What are you doing as far as that goes, and as far as the rest of the receivers you like the most?
Yeah, the two Devontae Adams and Wilson are up there in the Rodgers stack. CeeDee Lamb low owned is a high end option. The Indiana Colts receivers are pretty chalky. Josh Downs, Mitchell hasn't really even done that well. He's a lower owned option in that game. Doolin's actually outsnapped him a little bit. You got Shakir and Matt Collins on the other side of that game with Shakir popping. I like Matt Collins a lot. I think DeAndre Hopkins is kind of he's going to get in a lot of ownership. 5,300. He's quite involved, and I like him. And my lower owned one that's getting decent projection but a little costly is Terry McLaurin. With that Najee correlation, he's been really synced up with Jaden Daniels. I think they keep it going. This week, Marvin Harrison in my stack with my Kyler Murray. He's probably going to make a big lineup. I think I'm going to stack Kyler with Marvin Harrison and McBride. I like that. Quentin Johnson over Lamb. McConkey. I know McConkey's there, but I like, get different. McConkey's going to get owned. So I'm just making some stands this week, more than I have, and just kind of limiting it down. My cheap receivers, Ray McLeod, 4,300, I like as well. So that's just another cheap guy down low. Besides that, I want to sprinkle in the main guys that I like.
Yep. I like the idea of the Yeah, go ahead. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Sheets. I was a little distracted by a couple comments. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we'll talk about the guys who are showing up. Then a couple of guys I want to just kind of throw in. So Josh Downs is showing up as a top play, as we've mentioned 30 different times. With Cooper out, all these Buffalo receivers show up, like Shakir, Mac Hollins. You mentioned. Well, I guess we'll get to Kincaid in a minute. I'm just looking at him as a receiver right now. And then I like the and Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams from that Jets game, obviously. You mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr. I like that. Let me just throw in a couple of thoughts. First of all, I'm already pre-tilted, so he's going to obviously smash at high ownership, but someone else can play Adonai Mitchell except for me. Okay,
your nemesis.
It's my nemesis. I had him in the Wildcat last week and showdown. So I was watching every possession, and they were down, and they had to have like 4 receiver sets in for like the last like 4 possessions, and he got a total of 1 snap. Okay, it was now again Pittman was in, but it was Pittman and Downs, and then Doolin like totally outsnapped him. Okay, so if you want to pivot off the pivot, maybe play something like Doolin or something like that. Adonai Mitchell is not going to get there for me at high ownership. The couple of other kind of hoodoos I'll just throw out there. Maybe I'll say these for later. But Hopkins obviously looks like a good play, but Xavier Worthy, he's coming off of like a dud game. I mean,
where he almost, by the way, caught a big touchdown right away that literally he should have had.
Right on the board, he actually ran more routes than Hopkins.
Yeah.
And he's expensive, or more expensive than Hopkins. I don't know if he's going to even exceed 5% ownership as a result of that. So again, Millie Maker, that type of stuff, I kind of like it. A couple of other guys I'll throw in there. I'll go back to the Calvin Ridley from Tennessee. If in fact, I guess this is a 9-point spread or whatever, and the Chargers get their stuff going, I do like Ridley is basically owning all of the whatever. And I got one more that I am gonna save to the end. But I do have one more receiver that I'm gonna save to the end that's gonna maybe win the Millie Maker.
All right, I'm gonna throw out a couple of things. I agree with most of everything that you guys said, but there is one wide receiver on this slate who's, not one. There are 2 wide receivers on the slate who are significantly, I guess I'll say, well, there's one who's better, but there's another one. Jefferson and Lamb are going to be very low owned, if not owned at all. And I understand it's hard to get them in. I'm trying to force it. I just think it makes too much sense. There's these guys could, if you put up like all these other receivers that we like and we sound cool and everything, what if we just like look at Jamar Chase, the game he had on Monday night. These guys can put up, maybe not, they're not going to put up 250 and 3 touchdowns or whatever. But when you can put up, 50 fantasy points, you can literally carry an entire slate by yourself, and you're going to have, low ownership. Jefferson will have some. Lamb will have 0, or not 0, but like 2%. I think it's good to get overweight those guys. I guess that's my biggest differentiating take. And other guys that I like a little bit, again, you could pair A.J. Brown or play Jalen Hurts naked, but I do have some A.J. Brown as a spend up to get different. I hate and I don't understand why I'm getting nearly as much. I'm gonna definitely lower this. The Sterling Shepard, I think it's, especially with the news that Palmer's in, that McMillan is in, I believe he was expected to play. I don't really get why I'm getting as much. I'm going to try and lessen that. Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, I like being overweight the San Francisco receivers that are going to be lower owned, and Debo for that matter. Those are all the other guys that are different other than the ones you mentioned. The Hopkins one, I can't seem to get Saberson to stop giving me as much of them as they are. Look, I have an issue with the Hopkins playing one. He's got a bad matchup. I like the Worthy idea sheets a lot to get off of them, but it's not a good matchup for Hopkins. Now, Hopkins is great, and so is Mahomes. And Hopkins, they'll line him up in different ways and find a way to get him the ball, probably. But I don't think we have to play like 30%, 25%, whatever he's going to end up being. So I would like to get a little bit underweight the Hopkins. But every time I set my max exposure, I can't get Saberson to stop giving me the max. The max. They give him exactly what I have the max set at every time.
Well, I will say this. I mean, like the way we used to play DFS is is okay. So Hopkins is whatever, and they'll just put Surtain on him, and then you're supposed to play the other guy. That being Worthy or even Kelsey.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree. And I actually, again, we're going to get into tight ends now. And part of the reason why the spending down it's weird is because I happen to very much like a lot of the spend ups at tight end. So I'm curious, Sheets, why don't you start off at tight end and then we'll go to Rody, what you're getting at.
The first guy I already kind of alluded to earlier, I didn't allude to I said him, is Dalton Kincaid from Buffalo. I mean, with those guys out, he's like a legit receiver, So he's my top owned tight end right now. The other guys I have would be Travis Kelce, who I just mentioned, and then Kittle. I ended up getting Taysom Hill, but not as much. And yeah, I'm getting the Will Dissly, but I'm not happy about it. I'm getting like 15% of that. And then I have another guy, Hunter Henry from the Patriots. He looks good too. So, but overall, the top guy right now is Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. It's because I think it's going to be a little bit lower owned than maybe some of the other ones. What are you getting to at tight end, Rody?
Yeah, I like all those guys. Cade Otton too. I mean, he's priced up a little bit. He's a little bit more owned than I think, but like Trey McBride's lower owned. He's a spend up option I really like. Kittle and Kelsey obviously are good. Kincaid, I built a bunch with Kincaid at 4,900. Really like his price. And then Dallas Goedert's back this week at 4,500. Maybe he gets involved again. And then Kyle Pitts is another one I like in my cousin stacks. I like stacking with him. Again, everyone's forgot about him. He's low owned. So really kind of staying with a few tight ends and spending up at those top guys that you guys mentioned, or Sheets mentioned.
Yeah, I like some of this. I like Kittle and Otton both in that same game.
Yeah.
I like Kelsey. And as far as spending down a little bit, I'm fine with the Dissly, but I'll be a little bit below the field. I'll be well above the field on Taysom Hill. I think if we're playing, whether you're playing Kamara or not, I think you should be playing a decent amount of Taysom Hill. And I just think that there's massive upside. He's also had big games against this team in the past. And, they're going to be a little bit more cautious and maybe not let Derek Carr potentially end somebody else's career. Taysom Hill might get a lot more run than we think at quarterback, as mostly as a rushing quarterback, but you just might see him used a lot of different ways today. And it's a new coach. He's their toy. So I love the idea that I'm getting 30% Taysom Hill overall right now. All right. We're going to talk defenses. We're kind of going quickly. That's my bad. It's, I'm just, again, I'm trying to.
What's wrong with going quick?
I guess there's nothing wrong with it. I don't know. Let's talk about the defenses, though, because I'll just say my quick take real quick before we get into Rody, then Sheets' defenses. You know what? They're trying to give me all the Bears in the world, and I just don't think it's right to play 40% of any defense. As Sheets says, never play more than 20. I'll set it a little bit higher. I'll go to 25 or something like that. But I don't want to play 40% of any defense ever, just because even if they get like 5 or 6 or whatever, there's plenty of 5 or 6s out there when some team is going to put up like 14 or 15, maybe even more defensively this week. So I just am trying to pare down the Bears defense a little bit. Rody, what are you getting to at defense? And they're still my highest owned defense, by the way, but just lower than.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of Bears too. I'm trying to get a little bit more spend up, even like into the the Chargers. I didn't mind the Eagles a little bit, mix in some of those more expensive ones. Patriots are a defense I'm getting a lot on the other side of the Bears game, going with them. They're still kind of owned though. 49ers, I don't mind at 3,300 mixed in those. Jets even threw the Jags in there, they're 2,500, just a cheap defense that I found. And, just kind of mixing it up with those expensive ones and then some of those cheaper ones that I like.
Yep, that makes sense. How about you, Sheets?
Yeah, I'm going to do no more than 15% of a defense.
Wow, going lower than 20.
Pretty soon it's going to be like no more than 5%.
And I'll tell you something, I want no defenses at all. I think the Bears are an atrocious play at that high ownership. I think like any defense is a bad play at high ownership, really. And I actually don't think the Patriots are that bad with May. And like you said, it's not good enough to like keep the team to 17 points, and it's not like their total is 11. You know what I mean? Like they have a higher team total than Tennessee for openers. They're not that much. They have the same team total as the Broncos, you know, or the Jaguars, you know. So who died and left the Bears? Is like Richard Dent back? You know what I mean? Like I guess they're fine, but as you mentioned, they have guys out anyway, you know. So the combination
like the safety and D tackle are out, but Montez Sweat is back from missing last week, and he's one of their better linemen.
That's
so
true.
They lost another one, but they got him back, so it's kind of evens out that.
But. I mean, I will go so far as say if you have a 30% owned defense or 25% owned defense, you're going to need at least one pick six to make that pay off. You know, like how is 10 points going to do it at that ownership? You know, I don't know. So I'm gonna limit myself to 15%, and you know what that's going to mean? I'm probably going to have left DeAndre Swift as a result of it. And that's just fine too.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm getting, and I actually don't mind this as a pivot. Like I like that Saber Sim's kind of forcing this in there for me a little bit. I still have the Bears as my highest owned, but at 20% now actually, and I just lowered it a little bit. I'm still gonna probably even lower it further. The Patriots number 2, those are the chalky ones. I like the Jags defense. I actually think there's a logic to playing it. One, it's going to be not chalky, but you're going to have ownership on the Minnesota side of it, so you're getting a little bit different that way. The defense that I think is by far the best, if you can, well, not by far the best, but one of the best if you can get to them, maybe the best. I like the Chiefs. I mean, we know Baker will throw picks and gamble a little bit. There's not true receivers there. So
Baker's not playing the Chiefs.
Oh, I'm sorry, not Baker. Bo Nix, excuse me. Right. Same story though. It's still a factual thing. But I like that quite a bit. And then I also do like the San Francisco side against Baker. So I sort of got my thoughts mixed up, but you sort of see where I'm coming from now, I hope. And yeah, I agree. I think you really do want to be spread out at defense in general today. My biggest, by the way, I already was tilted because I tried to get in there. I wanted to get some Sheets action today, and boom, everything sold out on State Kings by 6 a.m. my time.
And I haven't won a classic football slate like the whole season.
You know what, though? You hadn't won a finals seat to the final until Friday either. So
yeah, that's nice, Sheets. Glad to see you pick that up. That's going to be nice.
Yeah, I got like a 0% owned cat to carry me through the through that one. Yep.
He's been good. He's making Kendrick Perkins' ridiculous statement that he's more talented than Jokic look not good, but look less stupid than it actually was.
It's still pretty stupid, but
it's incredibly stupid. You're talking about Jokic is going to be one of the best 10 players of all time, and you're going to argue the cat is more talented than he is. Get out of here.
Before we go on for hot takes and stuff like that, and anything different on FanDuel?
Yeah, so the difference to me on FanDuel is I think that the late game, which there's some question marks in, I think you got some real opportunity for like Detroit and Houston. This would be I believe it'd be the highest total on the slate, or at least right just behind San Francisco and Tampa Bay, really close. I would like to be exposed to that. I would like a lot of that. You're in Houston, you're in a dome, another dome game for Detroit. Detroit just runs it up. I mean, they're beating the hell out of everybody. It's another bet that I like today. I hate giving up 3.5 points for a road team ever, but I feel very good about Detroit in general. But yeah, give me some Jahmyr Gibbs. Give me some of this might be the day if Nico's back. Maybe we go back to Tank Dell at what seems like an overprice. I think those are good plays. So that to me was one big difference over there. And I also just want to always emphasize that the running game means a lot more. I like the 3 running back set even more on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings. That's where I'm at. I'm not playing much over there, but that's what I've got. What about you?
So I here's the differences. What I'm getting right now is I'm getting a lot more Shakir over there. Mm-hmm. Also much more Breece Hall. And in addition to that, just weirdly, defense, I'm different. I'm getting a lot more Commanders over there for whatever that's worth, and Jaguars actually. So,
yeah, I think it also Lad McConkey is showing up more over there because of his price for me. I'm not playing much over there, but I do think McConkey is at 6,300. That just seems a little too cheap, and Calvin Ridley would be the other one at 5,800. That's just way too cheap for Calvin Ridley. Even though he hasn't looked great, it's a good defense they're up against. But I mean, he did have the 1 week with the 500 targets, and I'm hoping that maybe he can do the same at least for my FanDuel lineups. Rody, you playing it all on FanDuel today?
Yeah, I'll play the Blitz 222. I like that contest. Yeah, Shakir does seem cheap. Ridley, even Kincaid's only 6K now over there. I mean, that's a decent price. They're really trying to jam some of these, 5K, 6K, Ridley, Shakir, Kincaid, James Conner at 7,600. I like, but yeah, man, that Detroit Houston game's on that slate over there. I kind of want to stack that up a little bit. Gibbs looks good, expensive. Nico Collins back could help Tank Dell, open him up a little bit more too. So with Nico back, Dell could still get that. So I like that Dell call by Bobby there at 7,200. He's not a bad price either.
Nice. All right, we're going to get into some take times here, but also I guess I'll just talk about some stacks. I mean, game stacks if you're going to do the game stacking. Jets in Arizona and Tampa Bay, San Francisco are my two favorites. That's not exactly off the board, but it is what it is, and I like those as full game stacks. And on FanDuel, I like the Detroit and Houston trying to get to that stack. I think you could, especially if we think Collins is going to play, you could take the Stroud side of it because you can occasionally throw the ball in the Lions, and mostly the reason you could throw the ball in them is because they're always up by 30 points.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, one thing about the Jets in Arizona total, I might just look like an idiot for this, and Vegas maybe there's no way better. I cannot believe that total is 46. I think it should be over 50. I think that game has the potential to go completely nuclear, and even the Jets with their pass rush and everything, Kyler plays better against teams like that. So really, really like that game. And even though it's going to have ownership, I'm going to have a hard time getting away from it.
Yeah, you can mix and match guys that really easily. I want to stress also the Rhodey came up with it. Well, he first talked about this, but the Marvin Harrison Jr. on the other side of that game.
I like that.
I like that a lot. He's run really, really poor with respect to getting touchdowns this season, so it'll keep his ownership maybe a little bit lower. And McBride, you could use him also. And we talked about this earlier in the week. Is that's just a target share with Lazard out and Mike Williams out. I mean, it's just all. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't say all, but yeah, you could make a case for maybe like a 2 or so receptions for Xavier Gibson, whatever. But it's not only is it 2 guys, but it's 2 guys that can freaking eat. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know exactly. I don't know if you want to play them both or anything like that, but that's a very logical way to stack and a logical way to play.
Totally agree, and I don't think you necessarily want to play them both, but I love the idea of getting to more than the field, and I'm currently well over on both of Harrison and McBride, so I like that. All right, I guess I'll go first with my again. These are not crazy hot takes. I do think the Jets Arizona is going to be the game where the million was won or whatever, but that's not the hottest take. I think Taysom Hill is going to be on the winning lineup. And by the way, he was not on necessarily the millionaires, but he was on a lot of the single entry wins last week. So I called the same one last week. I'm going back to it again with Taysom Hill, just with everybody out. And that's the other sneaky game is that New Orleans Atlanta game. It wouldn't surprise me if it's 10-7, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's 35-32 or something like that. How about you, Sheets? What? I know you've been saving one up. So what is it?
All right, so I'll tell you what's winning. I'll tell you what's winning the Millie Maker. And I've alluded to this a couple of times, but who's winning the Millie Maker are the Patriots. Okay, it's going to be May. It's going to be Demario Douglas. It's going to be Hunter Henry, maybe Ramondre Stevenson, and Kayshon Boutte. Okay, against a 30% owned Bears defense. That's what's winning.
How about you could play him? I mean, you know what, Cheech? I kind of like that idea. I think that's pretty clever. Okay, Rhodey, any hot takes or anything?
I'm gonna put this Boutte in my naked Purdy lineup. I literally took all Sheets takes and from the show. Naked Purdy. I heard don't play Mitchell, play Boutte, and don't play Bears defense. Okay,
that's it.
Yeah, I like the Boutte idea a little bit. It's a pivot off of the Mitchell. There you go. Okay,
that's it.
Now we're talking. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, so I like that. I don't really have any hot takes today per se. I do like the Arizona side of it a lot. I think that's going to be one of my main lineups today. I do like Scary Terry at a high price in the Washington game a little bit. Find a way to get him with Najee, and that's kind of my take. A little bit lower owned. I'm more contrarian today on my stacks and my plays. So
I like that Terry McLaurin idea, and he's basically been doing it all the time. So even against tough defense here, and I think a lot of perception drives ownership in these things. And Terry McLaurin has been just getting there every week. So I don't mind that idea. And if you're while you're at it, like if you wanted to throw, you could convince me of so many stacks today. But I mentioned that Josh Allen and that Lamar are going to get low ownership. Obviously, you're not going to have any ownership at all on Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels to McLaurin, maybe run it back with either Pickens or Harris. I think that's not a bad idea. As a little mini stack. I'm not opposed to it. But my highest own is definitely going to end up with the Arizona Jets game personally.
Yeah, I should have said that I do have some Drake May, Douglas, and Henry stacks on like the $5 flea flicker buy-in. I built an hand build with that. So Sheets take again there. The little bit of Patriots, I don't mind either.
Nice.
Had to when that Bears defense is so chalky.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Any other questions? We got a question from Tony saying, Sheets, do you think the Bears lose today? I think he does after what he said.
No,
not necessarily. They could still go off and still lose the game.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're going to run somebody back, you've already got the natural run back and the running back in DeAndre Swift. And you also, if you want to go a little less chalky, you could go with the Keenan Allen or something like that. Maybe to get a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. There's not that many games that are locks on the slate. And I wouldn't mind trying like this 40-point total game. I don't know. That's my take. What can I tell you?
Yep, I got you. All right, Rody, go ahead and take us out of here, buddy.
All right, don't forget to hit the like button on the way out, guys. If you haven't subscribed, I've seen some new people in the chat, so that's nice. Hit the subscribe button on the way out, and as always, guys, good luck this Sunday, and let's get it. Let's get it.